There we go.
everybody!
Hi.
Hello! Welcome to whatever this is. I don't know. Dungeon Master discussions sounded kind of catchy, but I don't know. So we're just gonna chat about DM stuff.
Yeah, we're just gonna be talking about D&D.
Yeah, the usual.
The huge.
Yeah.
The. Well, this is wild, isn't it?
This is very wild. Also your model, I can't get over how nice it looks. I'm sorry. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so cool.
Thanks.
Welcome. Okay. So, for those of you that do not know who this skeleton is, if you haven't seen my D&D streams, or I don't know. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you do?
Well, okay, hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay, hold on. I knew I needed to fix something.
Oh.
I forgot to go and have the audio up. It's all good. I'm good at this. I'm good at games. I'm good at this shit. Thank you, Leo, for saying that. So, hi everybody. I am Undead, also known as Undead Commander, Commander Gallo, or if you're mainly just a fan of the book, Cody, because that's on the front of it. I'm a tropical skeleton VTuber, and I like the whole entire spiel of that is I'm a retired platoon commander from a necromantic lord's legions. So yeah, just tropical skeleton VTuber and all that jazz. But I mainly am a TTRPG content creator. I run campaigns online and do fantasy writing, and I actually wrote my campaign setting here on Twitch in the span of 15 months, and I made it available for free for people, as well as other tools for people to use, like 200 plus pre-written locations that have population percentages. So there's that as well. So if you want some like primers for like adventure hooks, I got 200 plus of that. All pre-written locations for you.
So I have a question for you that is not. Was there ever any splat in your platoons? There were any splat in your platoons?
I will have you know that there was not. I do not have squid children. No squid kids. None of them. But the children are allowed to be armed. Give them guns. Do it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
They're ink guns, but
Oh man, that's pretty cool. Well, you do a lot of cool stuff, and happy to have you here. So you already said a little bit about you got a whole TTRPG book, which is kind of amazing. But like, what experience do you have DMing or GMing if you're not as kinky?
Well, I'm not as kinky, so thank you for clarifying that.
Welcome.
That was needed. I am in terms of GMing, I've been in the hobby for like 23 years, and being a GM, I've been a GM for about 16 years of that. A lot of it, like, I started it in 3rd edition and moved into 3.5, and that's like my bread and butter, but I have been going into 5th edition. As of, I would say about like maybe 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, I got into 5e. And it started off good, and then it went downhill, and I've been trying to recoup the bad taste in my mouth ever since.
Wait. The bad taste from 5e?
Yeah.
Why?
It had a particular bad DM experience.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, I think, maybe we can maybe get into that a little bit later.
We can.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Spoilers? That is a long time. That's a lot longer than I I've been DMing. I mean, I think I've been in the hobby about, I don't know, how old am I? Okay, I think like about 7 years, and I've been DMing for all 7. But so I don't know, in your opinion, especially because you've played a lot of other editions other than just 5e,
Mm-hmm.
what makes a good dungeon master or game master to you?
So I have like a pretty extensive answer with this.
Yeah. Go for
Because
it.
to me, a good DM is someone that prioritizes player fun over the rules. As long as the players are enjoying themselves, then the DM is doing their job well. And for that DM to be knowledgeable of the rules, maintain a cohesive story, and make the players feel like they are present forces in that world, then they're doing exactly what a good DM should do. Like, you have to make the world believable, but you also have to kind of like read the room, that sort of deal. So, like, for sake of example, like, you're a good DM because you maintain a consistent story, you make sure that we're having fun. Like, you've consistently asked us questions involving, like, what we want to do. Like, and even though that you are forgetful at times,
I don't know what you're talking about. That's crazy.
But it's the fact that, like, we, at least in my opinion, from my perspective, like, none of us have felt stressed over, like, going into the session. Like, we've looked forward to the sessions. Like, to give you credit, to give you like the most credit possible, like, in this is a testament to like how much fun I've been having in Ash's game. At work, at my 12-hour a day job where I work 6 to 6, I rehearse scenarios and lines as my character, as Ulysses.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah. When I go on my security patrols, I'm rehearsing lines.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I do. Like, I'm very invested in playing Ulysses. Ulysses has been like one of my favorite characters to play, and you've given me a world that like I'm excited to be in. I love being able to play.
Well, thank you for all the praises. I wasn't I appreciate it a lot. I have not had the pleasure of playing at your table yet, but hopefully one day. And I'm very excited because I have seen some of the stuff that you do and when you're GMing, and I've watched like a lot of your 3.5 stuff, and that it's definitely 3.5 is definitely a little bit crunchier for sure, I think, than 5e. And I think also the difference in the system that you're playing can also make a difference in if you think that someone is like a good DM or not. Because I would most definitely also describe you as, using finger quotes here, a good DM, but that can also be super different for everyone, because someone could go and they could watch your game and be like, oh, well, I don't like that, but maybe they also just don't like 3.5. Maybe they don't like that style, right? Because I think there's definitely different styles, but I really liked your answer, especially because of how kind of broad you made it, and I think you did a good job of keeping it simple but also concise, So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that kind of goes into the next question, right? That we had of can that be different at different tables? And I guess also, what the heck does that look like at different tables? Like, why is one DM good for one table and another bad for another table? What do you think?
So each DM is somebody that like houses a different set of skills, and those skill sets sometimes supersede certain key aspects of gameplay. Let's say that a DM is really good at telling a compelling story. Well, what if they can only tell that story if they railroad the players? Are the players still having fun? Yeah. then even though everything is railroaded on a predetermined like route where the players don't have true agency, as long as they're having fun, then that DM has done their job. And sometimes players like sandboxes. Sometimes DMs don't know the rules but can make the game fun without them, or make up better rules on the fly. Or maybe the game centers around the players being powerless in the world and the world is indifferent to them. And the story is still good, and it makes it to where like the bleakness is exciting. So like these are things that as tables are different, there's different skill sets that GMs are able to use. If you are somebody that is like you took theater for sake of example. Like, of course, you're going to be doing a lot of voices and role play. You're going to focus more on role play than combat. There's some tables that would prefer to have role play over combat. Meanwhile, there's people that understand the rules really well, or they might be like a game dev, and they know how to make like, you know, combat just as entertaining as possible. So they have it to where it's like there's a high skill curve to it. All of that stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna go and do this. We're gonna switch spots. So then, like, you know, I can actually like look at you on your screen as well, because I'm noticing that like I'm not looking at you.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
I gotta make it work. You know.
Yeah. I'm a little bit flatter, so I'm just staring directly into the souls of the chat. I'm watching them through their walls as we speak.
Just you're staring through the like asbestos and insulation.
Yep. I hope you guys can feel my wet eyeballs.
But yeah, it's just outright like people will have different skill sets that they bring to the table, and with that table is going to have more of a theming around that skill set. So that is something to keep in mind. Like if you're into theater, if you're like into number crunching, if you are into world building, like all of those will have their place at a table, and it's about finding that table that matters.
I totally agree, but once again, you're so good at the segue thing. I think that's a perfect segue. Wow. Because you kind of mentioned them a little bit by talking about, you know, those stinky theater kids. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Theater kids, I love you. I'm sorry.
Also, Alex, thank you for the tier 1 sub for 25 months. Hella appreciate it.
That's pretty epic.
Alex has been here since the start.
Hell yeah.
It's like he's a hardcore friend.
Yeah, so there's a few player archetypes. I believe these are talked about in the new DMG. So I kind of wanted
Soul, thank you too.
So I kind of wanted to talk about them here because a lot of them are kind of like they're essentially the stereotypes of people that you would see at a table, right? So we've got the actor, which is your theater kids. They're the ones that'll do the voices and dress up. We have the explorer. Oh my gosh, I love the glasses. It looks amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let me adjust them again. Adjust them.
The explorer, which is someone who, you know, they are more into not necessarily like building, but like, you know, literally exploring. That's pretty literal.
Yeah.
You have the fighter, which is it's different than the optimizer, but the fighter is someone who always wants to be in combat. They're not there for the role play. They're there to like fight and be in combat. There's the instigator, which is your classic, you put a red button in front of me and it's gonna get pressed. They always like to be busy, always doing things. They may not want to sit and have a 30-minute conversation with, you know, an NPC. Like they might want to be trying to do something, but that's not always the case. You also have the optimizer, different from the fighter, often confused. Optimizer, they want their character to be the best at something. But the reason they're different is because that can be roleplay related. So you can have a bard that's optimized, because they're, they've got a plus 12 in persuasion. But you can also have a fighter that's optimized. You are the best at something, and you're building, not to break the game, but rules. Rules. We've got the problem solver, which they're there to do the things and solve the problems. As well as the storyteller. And the storyteller is similar to the actor, but a little bit different. The actor is more of like focused on their character, while the storyteller is there for the overarching narrative, like kind of think like Lord of the Rings type epic narrative. And then you also have the socializer, which is new. They just added this archetype, player type, however you want to say it. It's basically the guy that's there to have fun with his friends and doesn't really give a shit. The guy that's there to drink beer, eat pretzels, and not super invested, and is just there to like hang out with their friends,
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times these types of players, depending, can often mesh really well, or they can often conflict with each other. Like a lot of actors might not get along really well with a lot of socializers, that kind of stuff, because you're there to play the game for different reasons. And I think this works for a player context, but I think what a lot of people aren't talking about is how it works in a DM context, because DMs are fairly similar and they can probably fit into one of most of these categories, or a few of them. It doesn't have to be just one, but I think finding like a DM that has the same goals and aspirations for the game that you do can be really important. What do you think about that? What would you classify yourself as a DM?
As a DM, like
Yes.
using the player archetypes, or just
Yes.
outright like, in terms of the archetypes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the socializer.
Really?
I just like to be with friends. Like that's all that like it is to me. And like I can tell stories with friends, like in general. Like you would figure it's like, oh, the storyteller, or oh, the explorer, the actor. It's like, those would be the typical ones. It's like, no, I'm just a socializer. I like to be there, like with my friends and stuff. Like that's all I care about. I just want to have fun.
Oh yeah.
That's it. That's my whole entire shtick. Like I'm here just to have fun. That's why like most of my games are improv. I'm not planning anything. I have my A, my Z, and then I have like a bunch of random letters that if I think it's cool or if I think it'll work in the moment, I just plop it in.
Wow. Honestly, I don't know. That is not. I feel like I was not prepared for that answer. It's a great answer, but I was like, okay, yeah.
What were you expecting? What were you expecting?
I don't know. I guess personally, I was probably thinking that you were going to say, I mean, probably the storyteller, and also maybe, like maybe the instigator as a DM, but mostly storyteller, just because I think you are really good at telling stories and being able to have that narrative progression, as well as like kind of world building aspects. So that was definitely, I feel like definitely the socializer and the optimizer were on the bottom of my list. But I guess when I envision the socializer, like I guess I'm also thinking more of like along the lines of a player, right? So it's like the person that like they're not necessarily invested in like the story or the characters at all. They're just there for the people like at the table. Like they might not really know the rules, or they might not, like they're there to hang out versus like to have that kind of goal. But that's just kind of how I envision them. But I think it was a great answer.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Also, the Secret Futon went and had a pretty good question. It's like, if you have what would you classify a character that's actively working against the other players, like working with the DM closer? I classify that as an instigator.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
Oh yeah, Fender has like Fender is corroborating my point. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I definitely think instigator for the question, but I do. I think it's a great point. Um. Interesting.
You're losing the plot, Ash.
I don't know. What is the plot? Other
The
than
the plot would be I guess the next question down the line, or we
Yeah.
could just freeform this.
you could.
Remember, like this is like the thing that you organized. Which, by the way, everybody, Ash organized this. Ash organized this. Also, if I were to classify her, might as well go and like put the shoe on the other foot. If I were to go and classify her, yeah, I'd give storyteller. I would give
Okay.
storyteller.
Yeah.
And I would also give. I would give explorer. I would give explorer with that.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my answers for me as a player versus me as a DM are vastly different.
I dealt with you as a player. You were an instigator, you motherfucker. You killed that man. You chaos orbed him into the ocean.
I would classify myself as a player as an actor and an optimizer, which are two not frequently paired things. But, you
optimized his death really well.
it was an accident. I didn't mean for that. It was just a reaction. That was just a little, what do we, what would you classify yourself as a player?
Myself as a player?
Yeah.
Oh, I am actor and instigator 100%. I like that is me to a T.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I would agree with that. And I am glad. I appreciate your instigations.
I love instigating shit. I love being able to do that. It's super fun for me. Just in general. Oh my god, now our mods are intermingling.
Oh my gosh.
Also, so Soul went and brought up the fact that like I handed him a city builder, and they met gargantuan creatures. They got dinosaurs.
Big dinos?
They got dinosaurs yeah, they got dinos. They got brontosauruses. They got brontosauruses and werebears. It was really fucking cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so sick.
Also,
and then let's see. Futon went and asked, what about tips for wannabe GMs and DMs? You got that? You got that?
I just got excited. I was like,
I mean, we got 17 people watching us. You know?
Oh wow! Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's so many
pretty
people.
nice, right?
That's crazy.
That's crazy, guys.
There's so many people. Also,
The marrow devourer puppy. Oh yeah, the massive like flesh puppy.
But aren't all puppies just made of flesh?
Oh, this thing devours flesh. It's a flesh elemental.
Ooh, hot.
It's just a puppy. It's just a big puppy.
This sounds so cute.
Big pupper.
Also, I'm sorry I missed this, but Secret Futon, thank you so much for the follow. If you're having a basic, wonderful day, if you're supposed to buy us, welcome to the shit show. Anyway, okay, tips for new DMs. Just go for it. Just jump in to the deep end. Watch a bunch of YouTube videos. Read maybe the player's handbook. If you're feeling spicy, maybe the DMG. I definitely didn't. Just learn the core rules. Get some people who you think are cool. And I would honestly recommend using a pre-written module. I didn't when I started, and it fucked me up really bad. Yeah, it was a lot of work. Pre-writtens are generally easier to start with, but you definitely don't have to. Or just use a pre-written adventure if you want to make your whole campaign, but just start with something that's a little less scary. But just literally learn the rules and find some friends and be like, figure out the kind of game you want to run, you know?
Yeah.
Be like, do I want to run something that's more gritty or more high fantasy or you want to run like super by the books? Do you just want to be like loosey goosey? Is it more role play, more combat? Just like pick those main core aspects, learn the basic rules, and jump in. And hopefully you don't drown. You probably won't though. It's usually a ball pit. There's usually no actual water. It's just a fun little goofy ball pit, so you're not gonna drown. You just might be a little lost for a while, but you'll get it.
Like, the most that I'm able to provide in terms of advice, for getting into DMing and GMing
Mm-hmm.
is find probably about like a few TTRPG content creators, find a few of them and watch their content, get a feel for like how they run their games.
Mm-hmm.
Pick your favorites. Like, a big influence for me was Matthew Colville. He's somebody that like I feel as if has a lot of good advice. He has a lot of running the game stuff, like a lot of running the game videos. And like, you know, he used to be a game dev. He worked on the game Evolve. So like, you know, there's like, you know, having that as a base for myself. But of course, like, you know, you can go and watch like Dungeon Craft, you can watch Pack Tactics, you can watch Joe Cat, you can watch just anybody and everybody, and kind of like get a feel for like how they run games or their viewpoints on games. Whatever TTRPG content you can ingest, do it.
Yeah.
After that influences you, find a group. Honestly, Trial by Fire, I think, is the best. Find a newbie friendly group, play with them outright. Like, being a player is honestly imperative for you to be a DM. So be a player first, then DM. That will help you greatly, because now you're able to see like what the players are dealing with on the opposite side of the screen.
Yeah. I definitely like I didn't have that because at least for me, no one wanted to be the DM, right? Everyone that I talked to, they were like, that's too much work. I don't want to do it, whatever. So I was like, all right, well, I really want to, I got to put my big girl panties on and just do it. So you definitely can start off as the DM for sure. But it's definitely easier to start off like as a player. I 100% agree with you. And at least for me, super cliche, guys. Super cliche. Don't like, but I got into D&D because of Critical Role. You know, I'm not. It's true. It's 100% true. And I learned a lot. So even if you watch like bigger streamers like that, you can. You just have to make sure that you're not falling under, you know, the so-called Matthew Mercer effect. Vom.
Yeah.
Because just know that you don't have to be perfect. It's totally fine to fuck up. Like, who gives a shit, you know? And if your players do give a shit and they're not patient or respectful because you're new, well, then, you know, they're assholes. So
Yeah, and then you don't need them. You really don't. Like, just get people that are going to actually, like, help you become a better GM. And honestly, like, that's how you mold your play style. 100%.
Awesome.
So, like, that's the major thing. Is like, you will mold your play style that way. You'll mold your GMing style that way, based off of how you engage with your players. Hell, like, your group might not like the rules at all, and they like all of your homebrew ones. And then the moment that you go and run for like a different group, they might be confused or even a little upset that you're not running things by the rules because you do things different. And that's because you have a group that works for you. So like, that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
That's something to keep outright in mind, is your DMing style might not be for everybody. Meanwhile, for Oliver's Futon's follow-up question of what about being a new player, and is it normal to stutter when playing a session? I know that for them, they were dealing with like it being their first game. So it's completely understandable. There's that stress and anxiety of like whether or not you're going to do well, whether or not, like, you know, the party likes you, whether or not the DM likes you, whether or not, like, you know, you're being a bother with your questions. You are never I repeat, never. You are never a bother with questions. If the DM is bothered by you asking questions or you wanting clarifying points, they're not a good DM because they don't care about your experience at that point. They don't care that you're able to be engaged. You need to be able to, as a DM, answer questions. And as a player, you're encouraged to ask questions. So as a new player, I think that you're fine. I think that you just have to go and like kind of ease up because you're playing make believe with a bunch of other people. Like
Yeah.
it's your collective hallucination of a fantasy setting that one guy is kind of, or girl or whomever, is just kind of. Oh, thank you for my hat. It's the collective fantasy that like all of you are having. Just the shared hallucination. It's a book being read at you, and you get to decide what the dialogue gets to be.
Yes.
Aw. Thank you for the skelepads too. I appreciate that.
I did want to add something. I know we were talking about the players, but going back to being a new DM, don't be afraid to ask your players for feedback. And this also goes for veteran DMs if this isn't something you already do, because you want to make sure your players have fun and have a good time. So asking them what they want to see and what they think, like, that can be really great. But just make sure you're asking for constructive criticism. If they're like, oh my God, your one accent was totally dog shit, then, well, that's ridiculous. But, if there's actual genuine improvements, especially as a newbie, they'll probably be super nice about it and be like, hey, like, I'd love to see this in the game, or maybe we could try doing this or incorporating this. Like, I love to see that kind of stuff, because it's great and it only helps you get better. And on the point of being a new player, stuttering is totally fine and it happens. And I would also like to say that I've taught a lot of new players. Most of the groups that I have DM for ended up being new players, probably about 80% of the groups. So my biggest recommendation is, I know this can be super scary, but just try to pretend like just fake it till you make it, if that makes sense. Just know that you're okay and like you're in a safe space, so it's okay to be silly and weird and goofy, and don't feel like you are holding anyone back, because you're not. It's always easier said than done at the end of the day, but it's just one of those things, like, you gotta have confidence in yourself, and don't be afraid to be the silly goofy guy that you are in your heart. I'm
100% by that. Okay. I'm 100%.
Oh yeah. And here, sometimes this helps me, especially when I'm nervous, because there's been a few games that I've been very nervous to DM or play for whatever reasons. But what I would do is I would practice being that character. Like, I would be driving somewhere or going somewhere, and like I would be talking to myself, being like, oi, me already is, the scurvy dog's gotta walk the plank. Like, just be goofy and silly, and you can practice, being your character, and all that kind of stuff when you're alone, because you'll feel really weird when you do it alone in a room. So then you'll feel less weird when you do it in a room, or online with other people. Also, Frosty the Nomad, thank you so much for the follow. I hope you have an amazing, wonderful day, and I hope you're as full spouse. Welcome to the show.
There we go. I think I got that handled. I decided to go and add a little something on us because of the scene that I have made it to where, like, we're a little sun kissed. We got a little sunlight on us.
Oh wait, I gotta see. Oh my gosh, wait, so many tabs. Let me see. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love it.
I'm glad you do.
That's
I'm glad
adorable.
You do.
Oh man. All right. I guess we didn't really talk about this, but how the shit show? Oh, sorry, can I curse on your stream? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, listen. Okay, I curse like a
sorry.
sailor. You've heard me say cunt and fuck before. Like, you're fine.
Yeah, you have. I wanted to make sure because I've never. Okay,
no,
cool,
like
cool,
it's
cool,
all
cool.
good. You're fine.
So like, how the heck? How do you find a dungeon master that's right for you? How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you know that your players are the right players for you as a dungeon master? What?
So, I don't really have the best answer for this because it's very subjective and it takes a lot of chance. I've had great DMs in the past. I've had good DMs often. I've had horrible DMs more times than I would like to admit. And finding one that is right for you is about just trial and error. You have to take a chance and join into games to really just get out of your comfort zone and find that right DM in general. Like that's what you actually have to do. And it sucks because it's like it's not an answer people want to hear. It's not like, but you do need to actually get out of your comfort zone. You have to take risks. You have to try. You have to go and join games. In general, you're gonna have to do that.
Yes.
So it's like it's one of those bear with me moments.
I agree. One suggestion I would have, if at least you want a jumping off point, especially if you've never played before and you have the means to do this. This is not something everyone is able to do, but if it's something you're able to do, I recommend it. Either going to a convention, and it can be a really small local one, but a lot of conventions will have not quite professionals, but they'll have really experienced DMs run games a lot of the time. So that's something I would recommend because if you have good DMs with a lot of experience, they'll help you feel a lot more comfortable very quickly sometimes. But also your friendly local game store. There's so many servers and stuff like that. It's just about unfortunately, like getting over that anticipatory anxiety, that initial like, I don't want to socialize. Social scary. It is scary. It fucking sucks, bro. It's awful. But then you get over it and it's totally worth it. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it might not be amazing every time, but you just also have to be able to be like, okay, that bad experience, it happened, it's over, but let's go and try and find another good experience. Something that is, better, more beneficial, something that I can enjoy more because I know that I like this thing,
I feel like a lot of people are afraid of taking that step into trying to find like new groups and new DMs because they don't want to be a part of an RPG horror story, and no one's avoiding that. Nobody's avoiding that. You cannot avoid that. You will have them. I've had them. I've definitely had them. Hell, like a lot of people in my server have had them. Like even the people in Project Open Table have had them before. That's why they joined it. It's like it's an issue. It's an issue no matter what you're going to be getting it, and that's because their playstyle, the way they run, is something that is specific for certain groups, and you just don't mesh with it. And yes, that also includes the very, very creepy people that run games. That includes them too, because they had that enabled by a group before, which means that they had a group that worked for them. They just don't have that group now, and then now that's just their current behavior on how to do it. So if you're able to be malleable as a GM, then that's good. Like, changing up your playstyle and stuff. Hi, CG. But yeah, that's what it would be. I think that overall, finding your good DM, finding like, your forever DM. I wouldn't say forever DM because you're not always going to be in their games, but finding a DM that's good for you is finding the DM that you want to be. I feel as if like that's the key thing to go off of, is find the DM that you want to be and play with that DM or be that DM?
I think that's a great way to put it, and that should go on a T-shirt. Find the DM that you want to be.
Thank you for skelepats.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Because I think that's a great way to look at it. I thought I saw a question, but maybe I'm just blind. Did I miss it?
Oh, we've been like bombarded every now and again.
Oh, I thought I saw one recently, but oh no. Okay, all right. Well, I'm sorry, it's gone. If that was your question, I don't know. Ask it again. I'm sorry. My bad. My bad, gamers.
my big homies.
So, you know, we've talked a lot about like being a good DM and kind of making sure your players are having fun and that it can be different for everyone.
Yeah.
But like, you know, in the midst of all of that and being flexible and finding happiness and the meaning of life or whatever, what makes a bad DM?
Oh Christ. This is gonna come off a little ranty, so I'm sorry. So a bad DM is a DM that cares more about telling their story as opposed to letting the players help tell it, where they make the players feel like passengers in the game as opposed to key components. A bad DM will argue with you over minor details, yell at you over mistakes, and they'll be overly critical over a fantasy game because you're not helping them with their narrative. And that is ultimately what a bad DM is. Somebody that cares more about their narrative than your presence. They just want you at the table to witness what they are presenting and treat you being there as a privilege that you are squandering if you bicker and moan about how things are ran. But the easiest way to tell if you're dealing with a bad DM is, does thinking about the session give you anxiety or stress? Do you dread it? Then there's a problem, and it may be tougher to solve than you might think.
Yeah, I think one way to look at it as well is if they are treating you like an audience member instead of a player in the story.
Yeah.
Or a character in the story at all. Because if you're just there to watch them, then that's not the game, bro. You know, you don't need to be an asshole to your players for any reason. Because it's a fun little fantasy fiction game. It's not assholery time, all right?
It's like you're playing make-believe with a bunch of adults.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be mauling that bad over it. Like, you can't. You just can't. Like, there's no reason why you should. So why are you getting like, why are you getting your panties in a twist? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why you should at all.
And don't get me wrong, I think there are definitely moments, especially depending on the table, where people will feel real emotions, and that can be like sadness or stress or even anger, but all of those things like are with everyone's consent. They stay at the table and they're not like brought anywhere else, but you're not being disrespectful or mean or rude to the other players, like, you know, outside of the game in any way, not really even in the game. I hope this is making sense, but it's anytime, especially where it's also outside of the role play. Like, you don't. Oh, go ahead.
I got hit with a water bottle. I had to drink.
Like,
I have them as tropical drinks.
I love
so that. Like that hit me. So there's one that I have where like it throws a surfboard at me.
A surfboard.
Yeah, a whole ass surfboard. And then I have like a website for like if you want to go and like for a Twitch integrated throwing system, because it has a bunch of free to use 3D assets. There's a redeem that I have called the Big One.
Oh.
And it throws a sperm whale. Like, It throws a whole whale. A whole ass whale.
Sorry, I was just processing that for a second. That's crazy. That's not wow. Wow, not the spale.
Not the spale. Or the blue whale, I forget. I know it's a whale. It throws a whale at me. They weren't specific when they named it, so like I couldn't go off of it too much. It looks blue. It might be a blue whale.
It might be a blue whale. Indeed. I was gonna say something about table flipping, but we got derailed by a spale. And I don't know. Don't let anyone flip their table or flip their tits. Oh, we don't want that.
Yeah.
There we go.
No table flippers here.
Yeah. Have you? So fun. I actually haven't had that. I am very fortunate. Where I haven't had that many like I really haven't had a truly bad DM experience. I've had DMs where I've played and was like, okay, well, that was fine, or that game really wasn't for me, but I've just never had anything that's been actually like a bad experience, because something I would like to point out, it is way different when you go into a game and you're like, okay, well, that game really wasn't for me, versus, wow, that was a horrific experience and that person was not nice. Those are different experiences. I would just like to say that, because I've seen some TTRPG horror stories where I read them and I'm like, this just sounds like a normal game where you just didn't like the people in it,
Yeah.
Like I think that is also something to be noted. So just kind of keep that in your brain versus is this actually a really bad experience, or is this just not a game for me? No,
because oftentimes that's going to be the case. Like, you're going to see these TTRPG horror stories, and I'm not gonna be wild about this, and I'm not gonna be demeaning anybody involving this, but I feel as if like some of them are not the biggest problems in the world. A lot of it's just like you're just not meshing with the group.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, it's just find a different group. No D&D is better than bad D&D. Like, if you're not having fun, then don't be there. Like, just it's not gonna end the world if you leave. It's not. Like, you will be fine. It's okay. Like, you will find groups. They're guaranteed there are groups you can play with. Also, Katana Aichi, hi. I'm doing well. I'm with Ash. Ash is wonderful. Hope you're doing well. Welcome on in.
I agree though.
I have my fair share of horror stories, but
yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I am very fortunate that I haven't experienced that many horror stories, but also sometimes I hope there aren't horror stories about me up there on the interwebs. I'm like, because I haven't been a player that many times as well, and usually when I am a player, it's with someone that I know IRL, even versus online. And I think being a DM and being a player, especially with strangers, how should I say this? I think you find more horror stories from players than you do from DMs, which there definitely are horror stories that come from like DMs and their perspective, but I think DMs have so much more, I don't know if control is the right word here. I don't think it's the right word, but it's definitely a sort of word to what I'm looking for. But yeah, so I think like they are able to handle those kinds of situations a little bit better than when you're a player. So yeah.
God, like, I feel like I've had more bad DM experiences than player experiences, but that's just because.
Really?
Well, I mean, like, I'm a forever DM, so.
Well, yeah.
Like.
Well, you can't say that now. You're a 99% DM now.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. But like, I barely play. I more just run. But that's because like I tend to like get worried about joining into a group, and this has happened a lot, and it's something that bugs me, and it's something I don't like. Um, I'm usually made into the de facto leader every single time. I could be playing a character that is highly irresponsible, complete dipshit, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, Undead should be the leader. He should be party leader." And it's like, dude, I'm the most irresponsible. Why do you want me? Why do you want me here? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I also play characters that are like, very smart or very like, cunning and conniving. But at the same time, I try to make it to where they're not wanting to be leaders at all, and they just get put in there. So it bugs me. It bugs me a lot. And like when it comes towards like for sake of example, Ash, your game.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Yeah. Like I know that I'm the talkative one, and I'm the note taker, but I don't like have to be the leader, guys. Like we don't need one. We don't need a leader. We're all fine. We can lead each other. We can be a council. But damn. Like that's what happens. Like I get made into the leader out of the blue, and I don't want to be the leader most of the time. And
Oh shit!
there are
Nick's
times
didn't
where
go off. Sorry.
Oh, it didn't go off? Damn.
Anyway, continue. I'm so sorry. I
Oh, it's okay.
ADHD.
It's okay. But like for me, like I usually don't like to be the leader. There are seldom few times I like being the leader, but like a lot of the time I don't like being the leader. I don't like being made into the de facto leader every single time. I would prefer for it to be like a discussion as opposed to just like a spontaneous decision. Man, that's kind of like where I relegate it. The only exception that I find to it is if the DM designates me as leader. If the DM designates a player as party leader, then that's because they see something nobody else can see. So it's like, know what? Fine, let that happen.
Here's my question for you. Do you think that it also has to do with the kind of characters that you tend to play when you are playing? Because at least as a DM, looking at the entire like party of characters that have been in the campaign and are in the campaign currently, to me, I also wouldn't, at least in my game personally, I don't know that I would describe Ulysses as like the leader versus the face of the party, because I think that like Ulysses is one of the characters that has the highest charisma, also has a high intelligence, and is a very like you as a person are outspoken, but then I think also Ulysses is an outspoken character and knows how to handle himself in social situations on top of that. So like, do you think that I don't know how often you play characters like that, but do you think that can factor in to that de facto leader or like face of the party situation kind of happening?
I think that it stems not only from that, because like you're going to deal with people that at the table they're going to be like they're going to have a force of personality.
Yeah.
Like they're the person that like everybody at the table gets along with, and usually that's the person that I've noticed gets picked as the leader. Is like we all like this player regardless of how qualified the character is. Like that's what it turns into. But like there's been times to where I've been picked because I have more experience. I like at the table there's times where I've been picked because like my character is just very talkative. There's times where I've been picked because I was the DM last time. There were times where I've been picked just because like out of the friend group everybody likes me. There's been times to where I've been picked because legitimate character reasoning, where it's like, oh hey, this person, they have leadership qualities as a character. Their character seems qualified. We're gonna pick them. So I can understand those, but it's just every single time it's a pick without asking me if I want it.
I see.
and I just want to be asked, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's all I want. I just want to be asked. It's like, do you want to be leader, or do you feel as if you can lead us, or do you feel as if, like, you know, you can guide us? It's like, that would be fine. I would be cool with that. But that's not always the case.
No, I that makes sense, and I can definitely see that. I guess so. If that's not, how should I phrase this? If that's not something like you want, I guess. So like, say in my game, right? Like, if that's not something that you really want to do, would you like do you want to verbalize that to the party, or is it just like you don't mind that much, or if it really does bother you, would you be like, hey guys, like I really don't want to be the so-called like leader or face of the party. Like if someone wants to take over, like talking a bit more or doing these specific things or like, you know, whatever. Or would you, in a different situation, like if you had the chance to play a different character, you know, and you verbalize that before the game, would you play a character that is like vastly different to maybe kind of stop that from happening a bit more? What do you think? What are you thinking?
So here's the funny thing. Ulysses has verbalized that he doesn't want to lead. He said this like early on.
Yeah.
And I thought it was hilarious because it's not that it was ignored. It was that it seemed as if everybody recognized nobody else here is qualified.
Well, that part I agree with. I guess I should have more so like that would be more of like an out of game actual conversation. If it's something that actually like did, you know, really bother you, like talk to the players like out of game. But I definitely realized that you said that in the game and no one just gave a shit.
Yeah, because it's like they kind of recognize, it's like, okay, we have somebody that has a sword that it just possesses them randomly, and they're going to kill people. Like that's just outright. So there's a wild card that is on their hip. We have a player who is blind and is delving into like investigating a lot more. I like the fact that Dio's been asking a lot more questions. We have someone that just joined that has not done any wonders to his reputation with the party. Like, I had to vouch for him. I had to exploit the fact that the party essentially made me the leader. I had to exploit that to get it to where he'd stop getting hazed. Like, and he still gets hazed, but like... But he does kind of egg it. He does kind of egg it a bit. But it's like, you know, that's our party. That is our party. Because then there's the snake oil salesman. There's the snake oil salesman, warlock artificer, that is actively working against the party. But he's doing it through his own machinations. Like that's like, because it's like. And I haven't even like really verbalized much to you about me working against the party. It's just we've been doing a general back and forth. And I think that like you and I are on the same relative page. Like I work for the board, okay?
Yeah.
That's it. Like I'm going to prevent as much death as possible, but I'm going to try and further their goals. Like I'm technically working against the party. So I'm going to do what I can to inconvenience everyone around me. That's Ulysses. But yeah, like I don't mind being the leader. I just want to be asked. That's it.
Okay.
If I'm asked, I'm cool with it. If I'm not asked, I'm going to do everything in my power to make myself seem like I'm not reliable.
That's fair. That's, you know what? I think that's very fair. I mean, I don't know. I think even Mr. Unreliable Ulysses might be the best option in this specific case, but I do understand why it can be really frustrating sometimes as a player, for sure.
You want to know how frustrating it gets? I played a fighter sorcerer in 3.5. I was mute. They made me the leader.
What?
They made me the leader. That's what they did. I was a mute fighter sorcerer that would just like it was an evil game.
Okay.
I was a baron. I was a tyrant and overlord. I could summon demons. I had a massive mace, and I would just kill people. That's it. I was a murder hobo. That like I made the character specifically to be a murder hobo. And yeah, it they made me the leader. And I'm like, okay, fine. You're gonna regret it. And then lo and behold, they're like, well, you know, we have no plans. You clearly have plans. It's like I'm a leader of a country, yeah. But I lead it with an iron fist. I let the people govern themselves. I don't talk. I can't talk. I have no tongue. I can't speak. Like, my character hunts mages. We spent about like 12 sessions hunting mages. That's what we did. We had 2 mages in the party. Like that was what happened. They just made me the leader. It's like, okay, like I said, you're gonna regret it. We hunted down mages, and then they were the last ones.
Did you kill them?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I branded them. I was an evil character. I went and I heated up my gauntlet with heat metal, and I branded them both. I put my hand directly over both of their hearts, and I heated them. Like, yeah, I did a brand, and then after I did the brand, I went and I casted this one spell called Necrotic Cyst, where it puts essentially a semi-sentient tumor inside that person's body. And I can cast spells through that tumor. And I use that to monitor them. Yeah. 3.5 had some vicious spells. There's one where there's a spell in it that is tied to that cyst. I forget the name of it, but it makes it to where the cyst itself destroys the person and their soul. I think it's called Necrotic Termination.
What?
It destroys the body and soul. It consumes it.
Yo.
And they're a pile of tumors on the ground. That's what happens. It is a brutal spell.
That's delicious.
It is horrible. It is absolutely horrible.
Ugh.
Like, I can turn somebody into jelly.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Superb.
Oh, and apparently, if they have the necrotic cyst, they take more damage when you hit them because it can pop.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's a fucked up spell. It's a very fucked up spell. But hey, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do when you're running an evil empire, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. No healthcare CEOs there. No.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
And they made that the leader. They had no reason to, besides the fact that, like, in the backstory, that he couldn't tell anybody. That he couldn't tell anyone. Nobody knew, because we all woke up in prison.
Okay.
You know, typical, like, Bethesda opening.
Yeah.
Like, woke up in prison. Nobody knew. They're like, we're gonna make him the leader. He can't talk. He just goes in a direction, kills some stuff. We're just gonna follow him. That's what they did.
Wow. Talk about just an aura of charisma for real. That's insane.
Well, I mean, he was a sorcerer, so he had a high charisma.
Oh, you know what? That's true. True. So here's a question for you. Do you think that, I know this is kind of straying away from DMing stuff a little bit, but do you think that when players feel confident in their character and their abilities as players, as well as like the story and like narrative of their character that they're working with, do you think that plays into them becoming that de facto leader a lot of the time? And do you think that kind of hopefully improving that confidence can help the rest of the table that maybe aren't so comfortable or don't want to be the leader, like, feel that way potentially? Like they could be the leader?
I think a lot of it does stem from, like, how much confidence they exude at the table. Because a lot of the time people don't pick a, like, leader from just in-game experience. They pick it from player experience. I would say, like, about 95% of the time, they're going to pick the party leader from the player. They will never think of the character. They will always think of the player. And the reason why I say that is the player is the one making the decisions for the character. They just now have to figure out why the character would be making those decisions, especially if that character is not qualified. So, like, that's where I feel like that kind of comes into play. Like, if somebody's playing, if they're playing a troglodyte, okay, like they're playing a troglodyte, and like, you know, it's like they can't speak a language that works with the party.
Right.
They smell really bad. They're hyper aggressive. But the player that's playing them knows the rules inside and out. They come up with all of the plans, all that stuff. They have to figure out if the party says, hey, I want that person to be the leader. They have to figure out why the troglodyte, these smelly, hyper aggressive troglodyte that cannot speak for the party in the least, why they're the leader. That's the problem. And there are DMs that will punish that. They will outright punish that, where it's like, oh, the player's making the decisions? Cool. We're gonna have it to where we're putting them in situations to where they're separated from the party and they can't help the party make decisions now. Even though that it's like there was a thing that I've done before where the reason why people in my games are allowed to switch initiatives and the reason why they're able to coordinate attacks is because of the fact that they've been in, and why they could talk above game about their abilities and plan out strategy and stuff without it being known in game. It's because the party's been together long enough that they have an understanding of in-game character strategy. Like, the characters know, it's like, this person has this spell, they have that spell slot. If they see me move in this direction and like there's subtle body language cues, they'll do it. So I'm somebody that allows above table talk for strategy and for planning, and now anybody can be the leader. Because that's just outright, your characters trust each other enough to know what actions they would take. So that's how I see it. That's how I depict it.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense for sure. I definitely think, like, because I've also been in similar situations where I am by far the most experienced player at a table, and I definitely felt kind of like the de facto leader because I knew what I was doing and I had that experience and I felt confident. And I think trying to sometimes, okay, all right, this might be a hot take. If you are at a table and most of the players are relatively new or don't have as much confidence compared to that one player that is usually the de facto leader, I think it's okay for that player to go ahead and talk to the DM and maybe discuss ways for those other players to feel more comfortable and ways for that player who's usually the leader to kind of like step back, even if it is planned out with the DM, because in the long run, you're trying to help your fellow players. And I think that it can be really good sometimes if done tastefully and in the right way. But that's my hot take.
That's the thing. It's like I don't view that as much of a hot take. Because it's like, if you have a bunch of newbie players, they're going to need somebody to feel like there's guidance. You know, like feel like there's like a level of guidance, and like it's nice for the GM to be able to have somebody to lean on to help, and especially to show off some mechanics. It's like if that person has more experience, it's like, okay, well, these players are new, maybe they don't understand that certain skills can be used for certain things, like insight. Insight you can actually use to figure out abilities of creatures, figure out you know, like what CR creature is, all that stuff. So you can just go, cool, I'm going to use insight for that, and now we're good. Like, you know, it's like, hey, we used insight for it. It's like, oh, I just thought insight was just to go and see if somebody's bad. And it's like, well, yeah, no, but you can use it for that, but you can also use it in combat.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, it's nice. So like yeah, it's like it's being able to teach like different mechanics, different strategies, and being able to lean on that experienced player who becomes the leader matters a lot. And I feel like that's not a hot take at all. I feel like that is a very reasonable take.
Well, because at least to me, I feel like it feels like a hot take because I've been at tables where I'm in that role, but then I'm also like I haven't been allowed to really like some of the few times I have played, I wasn't allowed to like talk to players about that kind of stuff, or I never wanted to like step on anyone's toes, or especially the DM's toes of like, especially because it was a large group. There was like 8 or 9 players. Like it was insane. Um, and I didn't want to step on the DM's toes or like be like too rules lawyery because I did but I knew a lot of the rules better than the DM. But I think that was something I definitely learned. This was several years ago from that to be like, next time that happens, you know, I want to approach the DM and be like, talk to them about it and be like, hey, can we maybe do these things because I know I'm a little more experienced so I can help you out. Like I'm not trying to metagame or break the game or anything. I just like genuinely want to be helpful to you, but I also it's definitely a fine line of that player being helpful, but also then stepping on the DM's toes. So I think that's just why talking about it can be super important. Because if they're aware of it and aware of your goals and what you want to do, then it's far less of an issue than if you're just going in and being like, actually, like, you know, your Eldritch Blast does like +5 damage and not +4. Like, I just wanted to, you know. Because I've definitely
Actually them.
I've definitely done that before, and I wasn't trying to be rude or mean or anything, but it was just I didn't know better at the time, you know.
That's fair, yeah. Which there were some questions that were asked too, like
Yes.
how much homebrew of game mechanics do you like to use as a GM? How much would you recommend for a newbie GM? I use a lot of homebrew. As a matter of fact, my hardcore games use tons of homebrew, and my entire setting is homebrew. Oh, ich bin, yeah, ich bin's, aka Fallen K. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. But yeah, I use a ton of homebrew. I have it to where, based off of percentage of your health, you start taking negatives to your dice rolls. I have it to where the longer you're in combat, you start taking unavoidable damage. Leader of the Skeletons. Thank you for the follow. Damn. Well, that's my boss. Holy shit. But yeah, we have like in it like you take unavoidable damage the longer you're in combat. Everybody takes that regardless of who you are because it's battle fatigue. I have it to where like you could take limb damage, and I have the percentages set for people's limbs. So like if you deal a certain amount of damage to a limb, that limb is considered like, you know, outright well, just for lack of a better word at this time, damaged. So now you take negatives for the rolls using that arm or that leg, or for movement, percentage chance of missing, all that stuff, like based off of the limbs. And if you keep hitting them, you can eventually dismember it. Like I use that stuff in my setting. And of course, there's like my magic mechanics too. So that is a major thing for me. For newbie GMs, I do not suggest using a lot of homebrew, but I suggest that if you don't understand the rules, for the time being, if something were to come up and you don't know the ruling for it, come up with the rule on the fly, look it up later. That's what I would say for like game mechanics for homebrew.
So at least for me, I will start with my recommendations first, and then I'll talk about what I do for my games. I would recommend not homebrewing that much, but if there's a rule that you really don't like, or it's impeding your game in any way, or a lot of rules are so commonly homebrewed that you actually think they're rules, a great example of this in 5e is drinking a potion as a bonus action. That is a homebrew rule. It's not an official rule.
It's a straight up action.
Yes, yeah, it's an action. So if there's things like that, a lot of the times, unless your players are super rules lawyers, they really won't even, like, that kind of small stuff, they won't sweat or notice, but don't have too much. But I would say if there's a few simple things that you want to try and you really want to try homebrewing, you can implement that stuff. But one of the most important things, it's the most important, I take it back, okay? The most important thing about homebrewing is talk to your players before putting in any homebrew shit, because if they don't know and you put it in and they're like, what the fuck is this? That's not how the rules work. Then that's not cool, dude. Just talk to them. Let them know you're going to put homebrew shit in your game, because like say, oh, this is a great example. Great example. I have rules, homebrew rules about resurrection. All right. And they're in my campaign. All of my players can see them at all times. But I have homebrew rules for reviving and death rules in and out of combat in my games. If I didn't tell my players about that, and then one of their characters just fucking died, they just fucking died, and like, then I pull rules out of my asshole, and they're like, that's not how the rules work, and I'm like, too bad, so sad. That feels so shitty. That feels horrible. Like, especially as a player, like, then you just can't get your character back? Like, what the heck? Because I didn't tell you about the homebrew rules? What? Don't do that. Just share with your players. I'm sure most of the time they'll be super cool with it. They just gotta know. You just gotta talk to them. Sorry, I went on a rant. I feel very passionate.
Oh, girly, it's
about
fine.
homebrew stuff. But for my games now, the game I'm currently DMing on Twitch, actually the one with Undead in it, is the first time I ever homebrewed a world. So that's my first experience, like, homebrewing a whole world. So it's been kind of interesting. But I have a good amount of homebrew rules for sure. I don't have too many. I have a couple combat ones, some out of combat ones. But I try to keep rules that are like, I try to make things more simple, or if I think something is too simple, I'll try to make it a little bit more interesting versus complex, because things don't always have to be complex as long as they're interesting and fun. So yeah, but I love homebrew, and I think it makes your games a lot better and more customizable. So I always recommend it, especially like learning, after you've learned how to DM and you feel a little bit more comfortable as a DM, definitely try homebrewing stuff. Like, I would start with, like, if you don't even want to do rules, what I would start with is homebrewing an adventure, writing an adventure, trying to homebrew like a balanced encounter instead of just taking one from a pre-written book, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah. We're yapping about being a good dungeon master or game master for tabletop games, mostly D&D, but this could really apply to everything. And right now we're talking about homebrew, which is making things up for your game. Yeah, that's it. That's what I got. Anyway.
Yell at the top of my lungs right now for ASMR. Well, that's not really ASMR, is it? I mean, technically, I have to read that in ASMR. So, but I'll just do it as like how it's described. Oh, Super Saiyan, thank you for the follow. So here's it being described, I guess, as ASMR. So, done. There you go. It's technically just me breathing on the mic. My poor pop filter, no.
Wow. That's crazy, Fallen. That's a crazy thing for you to say. That's crazy. I feel hurt.
Damn.
I'm offended.
I've been
Just
trying
kidding.
to figure out what Ash is yapping about for 3 years and 7 months.
Wow. How do you think? Wait. Wait. Did we talk about? Oh my gosh! Wait, I can't even remember.
No, we stopped doing the questions that you sent me.
No, I know, but I was gonna ask. Did we talk about how to improve DMing? I don't remember.
No.
Oh my gosh! How can you?
No. We have 4 questions that we didn't even talk about, and they're all at the end.
Oopsies. Okay. How can you improve your DMing? Wow. Also, if you have to go, like, if you run out of time, just like Let me know. I know we're both yappers, so I. Whoops.
I mean, like, yeah, it's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay.
So improving your DMing, in my opinion, the best way to improve it is to take feedback from your current players, find house rules that make your games fun,
Mm-hmm.
and learn from other DMs. Help play in those games so you can see how they do things and see if you like what they do. Like, just play more games. That's it. Just play games. And on top of playing games, like, look for other TTRPG content creators and watch their stuff. Enjoy their stuff. Trust me, like, you will excel at what you do if you're willing to learn from others, and that includes your current players. Take their feedback. Their feedback is invaluable.
Yeah, I concur. I know this is super lame, and everyone learns in a different way, but something that really helped me, because I can also be pretty, guys, I can be pretty forgetful sometimes. So like,
Somebody's a forgetty Betty.
Whoopsie. So I would really recommend writing stuff down. So like, I know this is super lame, but like, if you watch, say if you, here's a big one. We'll pull a big name out of the hat. Say if you watch like a Ginny D YouTube video on like how to improve roleplay, just, get a piece of paper and a pen out. I don't know, write some tips down. Write some stuff she says down. Or write whatever the other content creator says down that you like to watch. It can be about anything, but I think writing that down and kind of saying those things, it really helps to actually reinforce them and helps you actually learn those things. Versus kind of just like, because I think a lot of us will use those content creators as entertainment. But I think they're also a great resource. But I think treating them as entertainment and treating them as a resource and a learning experience are different. So don't just sit down and like watch them. You totally can, but truly, I recommend just trying. You can have a note sheet on your computer, whether you type it or you have physical pen or paper. Just have somewhere that you can take that information and you can store it. So that way you have a resource that you can actually look back on when you need those things, so you don't have to like go through that video again and again and again. And you can, that's totally a valid way of doing it, but that way you have those resources and they're saved and you can organize them in a way that works for you and that's helpful and beneficial to you as well. So yeah. Wow. Yeah. Not holy tamales, kind of. Oh wait, can I read that out loud? Wait, what is that?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like, you can. Yeah, you can read it. It's fine. What was that?
Oh, I didn't see what you were responding to. I was like, what? I was like, what do we?
Oh, my book is a TTRPG campaign setting. I wrote it for free. Like, it's a book that I wrote in 15 months. It's an entire campaign setting. And I have it to where it's available for free, so then people can actually get into the hobby. I don't like the fact that you go to like Barnes & Noble or just your local bookstore or like just game store and you see like, here's the player's handbook for like $60. It's like, okay, yeah, no, fuck that. Like, that's way too expensive. Nobody's got that. Nobody's got that scratch just for like, being able to get that. They might as well just go and get a game. So yeah, I made like everything that I make in general is for free. Because I don't like to that's why I don't like to like be charging people for stuff. Like, I was forced into having to charge for my like writing consultation and for my lore writing, but I make sure that that's very cheap. So then I'm undercutting the people that are charging way too much. Because there are people that are like, oh, I'm charging $500 for me to go and write you 2 pages of lore. It's like, okay, well, know what? You can go fuck yourself. I like, that is way too much. You're not like big time, dog. You're not Brandon Sanderson, okay? Like, you're not writing an epic here. You said 2 pages. And you're charging like 500. I'm charging like 30. and I'll write you 5. So yeah, like I make sure it's cheap enough, so then people can get it and they get a decent amount, and like it's infinite revisions. But we move through phases. Once we move into the next phase, then you can't go back. You can't go backwards. So that's what I do. But yeah, like if you really just want me to like drop the book, I think that it will work. I think the link will work still. Oh, hold on. No, the link won't work. Oh, it worked. Never mind.
Yay, the link worked.
So yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can go and hop onto my coffee, and yeah, you can download it. It's available for free. If you want to pay, you can. But I encourage you to just go and enjoy it for free. And I've been updating it as I've been doing my revisions. I did 100 line edits last night, so I have 254 pages to go.
Oh wow! Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a beefy book, but like it has holidays, superstitions, all that jazz. So it has like over 200 gods. So like it's like, and it's meant to just be like a setting that you can play in, and it has like 710 different kinds of magic. So there's that too.
That's what I would call pugalicious.
And it took 15 months. It was a lot of work, but I did it.
That's amazing. Also, leader of the skeletons, thank you so much for the follow. I hope you have an amazing, wonderful day, night, wherever you are. Welcome to the shit show. I saw your question. I am a metal mage idol. That's what I am. I'm your metal mage idol. Some say I'm a mad metal mage idol.
She wrote a song, by the way, Natural One. You should probably check that out. Maybe hey Ash, maybe you should go and show that. Can you show that for me, please?
Right now?
Yeah, and listen, you're here too, woman. Fucking put it up. Like
I don't know. I'm bad at chilling myself. All right. Oh gosh, I gotta go to YouTube. Ugh. All right, I'll do it. Okay.
There you go. Thank you, Quisp.
Oh yeah,
Thank
I
you,
forgot.
Quisp.
Oh, I can just put the exclamation point in the chat. Wait, that's so smart. Thanks, Quisp. I forgot I can do that.
The Quisp might as well be mod. Damn.
Thanks, Quisp. I appreciate it.
Our leader of skeletons is in ad jail.
Oh no.
Yeah. I just got the redeems for it.
Not the ad jail. Shit, there was something else I really wanted to say. If it was important, it'll come back to me. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Fuck! I feel like it was important. I'll remember it. If it was important, you'll hear about it in like 3 days. Alright? Yeah. Oh yeah, the next question. Do that. Oh wait, never mind. We should wait because agile. I knew that. Agile.
Oh, it didn't work this time. I'm sorry about that, Leo.
Alright.
There we go. Yeah, I know ads. I'm sorry. We're forced to have them.
I know. I wish you could turn them off.
I honestly do wish I could turn them off. If I were to start over again, I would never, and I mean never, go affiliate.
Really?
Yeah. If I were to start over again, I would choose to not go affiliate because then you don't have ads.
Oh. That's true. That's true.
I would just have it to where, like, if people want to go and, like, show support to the stream or donate, like, they could just do that instead. Like,
Yeah.
I'll have, like, a link for it.
The only reason I don't know that I think I like emotes too much. I think that would be my only justification, is that I'm just a slut for emotes.
I mean, honestly, like, build up a base channel. No, like, here's a hack. I don't know whether or not anybody's, like, tried this, but it'd be pretty neat. But what if you, like, have 2 channels and you do a shared chat with yourself?
Oh, interesting.
Also, thank you for being here, Misa. We
Thank
appreciate you.
And thank you for the follow. Thank you, thank you.
It's a commercial with Avril Lavigne. That's a name I haven't heard in 15 years. Oh my god. Dear Lord. You know, Ash, I'm gonna go and ask. I'm gonna ask this.
Yeah.
How's things going? How's things going like with the stream? You enjoying yourself? You having a good time?
Yeah, I'm having a good time. Are you having a good time?
I'm having a pretty good time.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is really fun. I like being
Hey.
able to go and like just get into the like talks and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, the
hell
outbreak's
yeah.
finishing now. Look at that.
Oh my gosh. Finishing up. Yeah, no, I'm having a good time. I actually forgot that, like, you know, sometimes I forget that like collabs and like are fun, and I'm like, that's crazy. Sometimes you just forget.
Yeah, it's like you're hanging out. Like I said, I'm the socializer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I prefer to just hang out with people. That's all I care about.
Oh yeah.
Now you all look a bit more like undead.
What is it? Oldness? Oldness?
Oldness.
What's oldness?
This is being old. Like, you know how people
Oh.
say sag and stuff? Yeah, so old.
Man, I am old. That's what I get for being 5004. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better, Quisp. Not good. Man. So, do you...
like to...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
As much as I appreciate the job offer, I cannot. I cannot. I like being beachside. I like being in my bungalow. My bungalow makes me happy. It brings me joy. But I at least know that I have job security somewhere, right?
Hey, Mr. Skeleton. Hey, yo, Mr. Commander, yo. Hey, yo.
Hey, yo.
Should you fudge your rolls, hey, yo? You fudge some roly polies, hey, yo? Should you do it? Should you not do it?
I think fudging rolls is fine. I don't get as to why people have such a fucking problem with fudging rolls. Like, because it's like, if you're on a hot streak, like if you're just rolling like nat 20 after nat 20 and then 19, 18, 17, but like you're not rolling below a 17 and you're just beating the absolute shit and steamrolling the party, just the fudge of the roll. Give them a break. Let them breathe. Let the man stand up. He's bleeding from the eyes over here. Like you gotta let them be. But like also, if you're only rolling shit, like if you can't roll above an 8 on the die, you can fudge a roll here or there. You're playing the game too. You're here to have fun too. So it's like just being able to show like a little bit off of your boss or of your encounter, that's fine. That's okay. Like don't do it often, of course, but like treat it, because I treat it like an honor system. You're allowed to fudge. Like for me, like I fudge a roll once per encounter. Like that's what I'm allowed. I don't always do it, but I'm allowed to do that once per encounter. Like good or bad. And then after that, not allowed. But if you do, then you have to provide like if you like fudge too much, make the rewards for the encounter better. Better loot, maybe like, you know, maybe a big story beat, do that sort of thing.
Okay, that's honestly that's really interesting. So I do have a YouTube video on this. You guys should like go check it out or whatever. Anyway,
Oh my god, there we go. That's the show that I was waiting for. You weren't gonna talk about your damn song. You Thank you. Thank you for talking about your content that you make, that you work on. You need to do that. You're out here. You hit go live.
Yeah.
You need to do this more. You need to really like hammer that shit home.
I know. We're working on it. Hey, come. We come a long way since the beginning. But words. I don't know. I know what I was saying. Anyway, I am a self-admitted. All right, I'm on the road to recovery. Okay, but I used to be a chronic fudger, okay, when I first started DMing. Mostly because I just didn't know what to do, because I would roll for everything. I would be like, oh my gosh, you have to climb up the ladder or do something stupid. Roll the dice. I have to roll for the bad guy to fall off the thing. Like, I was like, whatever. So I think for me, what I've learned is a lot of the time, if it's that important to you, and it matters that much that you feel like it has to succeed or it has to fail, don't roll a dice. It just happens because you're the DM, because you're the narrator. And if it's truly that important to the game, you can just narrate it, because that's what happens. As long as it's not something like you're like, ah, yes, and a lightning bolt strikes down and kills the whole party. Like, don't do that. But if you are, say, all right, we're gonna do a little scenario. All right.
Okay.
You're in a boss fight, okay? And the boss fight hasn't quite started, but you all are in you're not in a sea of people, but the party is exiting away, and there's a dragon flying in the sky. All right?
Okay.
And they come down, and like their ice breath, it spews over everyone, and as a DM, if you describe it as such, this dragon's breath releases in such a force and a full factor that there is no escape, no matter what. You cannot avoid it, because it is so strong. But then, like, you can still, obviously you're gonna roll a dex save, but it's half damage or whatever. Like, you're still gonna get hit. There's still ways for the players to succeed, but it's still hitting. Like, I guess it just, if it's that important, remove the chance. That's my opinion. I think don't fudge your rolls all the time. I don't do it anymore because I used to do it too much, so now I can't do it at all. At least for me, that's like how my brain works. I'm like, I just try and stay away from it. But I think if you're doing like the way you do it, I think that's totally fine, and I think that's acceptable. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be, unless it's, like I said, like you were doing it how I was doing it, and doing it inappropriately and all the time, and like it was just not cool.
It's like just don't spam it, you know?
Yeah.
Like that's why I have it to where it's like I'm allowed it once per encounter. And I don't even use it like most of the time. It's just something that like I do sometimes.
Yeah.
So like you can't really do it online. It's very difficult to do online because like if you are a DM that shows your roles, you obviously can't do it.
Right.
But if you're a DM that does not show your roles, then you know, it's okay. Like, you know, you're able to do it like whenever you want, but preferably do not make it a habit. If you make it a habit, that's where you have to go and really think about your encounter design, and you have to actually like mention to the players as to why, like, you know, certain things are just not going your way, or maybe things aren't going their way. So that's the other aspect of it, is like if they're seeing your roles, you can't change it. You can't do anything to fix it. It's just, that's just gonna stay the way it is. It's written in stone.
I think that's really interesting, because like as a DM, I'm gonna be honest, I just, unless it's a pivotal moment where I choose to show the players my role, because sometimes I will do that if it's something that's like really important and it is left up to chance. But
yeah,
most of the times I don't like showing them my roles. Like, even if I know I'm not fudging it, but I think it's just like, to me, it feels like it's more of a narrative choice, because then like if they see the dice roll and it's like, okay, well, they're like, okay, no, I hit, versus being able to like narrate that hit, I feel like can sometimes feel cooler, but maybe I'm just the Lulu. More suspenseful. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, like, I will have you know, because, like, so Ash lets me roll my IRL dice, because I found that rolling online dice, a lot of the time, I roll like shit. She's seen it. I roll really bad. So I have a hand cam now. So I can actually show my dice rolls to like the group, which is really nice. So I'm gonna be doing that whenever we're in calls. I'm gonna be showing my dice rolls, so I can actually show them. So I'm excited. It's a teaching tool too. It's like it was only like $45 for like this little arm, and it just shows like like it has like a little armature that like sticks on out and stuff, and it has a light too. It has a little light.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's really cool. I know one thing that I do is if it's very suspenseful stuff, I don't show the rolls. I do not show the rolls at all. Well, actually, yeah, I don't show the rolls at all until after both of us have rolled, and then I go and I right-click and reveal the roll. So it's like it adds that level of like theatrics and suspense. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun for me.
I think it can go like either way. Like when I prefer, so if I'm showing my players my rolls for an important moment, I will be honest. I probably will only show my rolls if it's really suspenseful if I'm in person, because I think being able to roll it on the physical, to be able to roll it on like the physical table adds more suspense versus just like rolling it online. If that makes sense. But the revealing is also cool. Anyway, sorry.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good.
I feel like the words that I said there didn't make sense, but that's fine. Sometimes that happens.
Nah, you're fine.
Okay,
We've been all over the place with like the questions and stuff too.
I know. I figured that would happen, so.
Well, that's because like it's a general discussion. That's kind of like why we do these things.
Yeah. I read this from Kobold Vori. A designer friend of mine has a game rule where the players once per session can have their big moment with something, declare it and roll a die. On a 1 they botch it, otherwise it succeeds. I thought that's really cool. I think that's a really cool homebrew rule, and I like that a lot.
So I like that. I would change it though. I would have it to where the player, once per campaign, they can like roll that die to auto succeed at something. The reason why is because like sessions tend to be like for a lot of groups like 3 to 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours. You get that per session, you're essentially like, oh hey, I'm going to succeed, and like I know that I'm succeeding every single session, which is fine, like and it helps the players, it makes them feel great. But who's to say that the players aren't going to like if they're savvy like this, where they're like, cool, I'm going to like just drag out this combat so then next combat we can all land hits. Or maybe we end session early, like somebody comes up with an excuse to end session early. So now next session they get that roll. Like I would have limitations on it. The easiest limitation is once per campaign. The harder limitation is you're allowed it once per session, but if you use it for combat, you can't get it back until like you get back to town. Actually, honestly, I would have it to where like you have to get back to town to get it back in general. And if you're in town, you have to long rest to get it back.
Yeah, I could see that. Or like you could do it where it's, I mean, obviously another simple one is, this isn't that much of a limitation, but like once every long rest, because sometimes you have a lot of games that like you have sessions between long rests. Or I don't know, this would suck. If you're into the whole time tracking in game, you could do it like once every month or once every 6 months or whatever, but that's a whole different thing. So yeah, but that makes sense, especially if it's like, if it's a different, if it's a different system, then that definitely makes sense. But I thought it was
each
really
system's
cool.
different. I think it's cool too. And I've done something like it. It's just I do it as a fake coin is what I called it. And you burn the coin. Like you just outright like you turn in the coin, you get to do your thing, you describe your moment, and I have to explain mechanically how it's going to work, how many rolls are involved, and you have to just kind of describe where you're going from there. That's it. Like you just outright you explain like what your action is supposed to be. I figure out how it's actually going to work mechanically, and we're good. Like we're good to go. I roll through with it, and if it doesn't instantly kill the thing, because a lot of people are just going to describe how to instantly kill something, then I change it up to where it's like it deals a decent amount of damage, or maybe they have a task that needs completed for the players to be able to actually like get the stuff done, or maybe the NPC recognizes them, so they're able to go and work with that. It's like, okay, well, know what? I know you. I know you since you were a kid, or I know you since we worked together before. So know what? I'm gonna cut you some slack. We're gonna go and like get through this, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's them burning their coin for me. I don't even really like have them roll. They just get it. But after that, they're no longer allowed to go and have a coin, and coins cannot be burnt at their expense. So it's like, oh hey, this player's like. In 5e, it's like, okay, this player is like they're on their last death save. You can't use your coin to save that player if they have spent their coin.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But if they haven't spent their coin, you can use your coin on them?
Yep.
Oh, interessante. That's cool. I like that. Do I want to be a part of the skeleton clan? I don't know. I'm pretty fleshy. I don't know that I can be a part of the skeleton clan. I think I got too much flesh.
Yeah, she paid for the assets that she has.
Oh,
that's actually pretty interesting, Rule Sandon. I mean, yeah, there is a skeleton in there.
Ooh.
Just speaking like skelepathically.
yeah.
Oh yeah, leader. I'm like my streams. I'm like this as well. I'm more like this with other people. But yeah, I am like this. This is me. This is just genuinely how I am. I've been influenced by a lot of different like YouTubers over the years and some streamers. General Sam being a key proponent. Except I don't say half the shit he says.
Right, googly moogly. Those are some big boy hoinky doinks. I don't know what that was. I'm sorry. That just came out of my mouth.
I don't know. I say wonky shit. Like Mimi want home.
My gosh. Oh my.
Mimi sad.
Gosh. Yeah, I don't know. It's all about the. I feel like streaming makes it easier to say the random weirdest shit ever.
You gotta fill the void. You
You
gotta fill the empty space that is the air.
Oh yeah.
It's there's silence, breaking it.
Oh yeah. I like to talk about Batman and his chimichanga quite a lot, and I couldn't tell you where that obsession came from. I don't know why.
Wait, Batman?
Yeah, and he's got a chimichanga. Like a burrito.
Why?
I don't
Why?
know. I don't know. I just think it's so funny. Great googly moogly. Batman, do you like that chimichanga? It's a chimichanga. And he gave it to his mama. And he's sitting on a bench with his chimichanga. He's Batman!
My fucking god.
Yep. Yeah. Speaking of weird shit, did you touch your players' characters? Did you touch
I
them?
didn't know what you meant by that. The hell do you mean by that?
You know, a nice little back massage, just a slap across the face. Just kidding. No, actually, what I mean by that is, um, basically, should you exert some control over them? So this is something that when I first started DMing, I didn't necessarily understand the concept of like they're their characters, those are off limits, right? Like I said, I also went into DMing pretty blind. But like when like I don't like say if you don't talk about it and your characters are in combat, right? Like, oh my gosh, that character loses an arm. Like big changes that either mechanically or aesthetically happen to the player's characters that are the DM says they happen without them pre-approving or you talking about it. Like say if you have your rules where they might lose their limbs, that's in the rules, but like as like say as a character, like you understand the risks, but also that like obviously that would really suck and it's also a fantasy game. So like that might not be as fun for the player if they like end up losing an arm or a leg in that scenario, regardless of like the realism. Or like a great example in D&D 5e is the spell Reincarnate, because you have to roll for what body that you like come back in. It's not like it's totally by chance. Like you go from playing a tiefling to a fucking halfling. Like that's you know?
It's a complete change of character.
Exactly.
So I'm in the field of yes, as a DM you should be allowed to. But as a matter of fact, like you need to figure out like what they would consent towards with their characters. With like a safety sheet if you have one.
Mm-hmm.
That way you know their triggers and what issues they may have, and you can make adjustments accordingly when tampering with the characters. But it will always require consent beforehand. Like for me, in Project Open Table, we have two sheets. We have a GM sheet and a player sheet. The GM sheet talks about all of the themes that may not, or are not in the game. We use that prolifically for all the games. You cannot start a game in Project Open Table unless you have that sheet. So, like, outright, you could state in that sheet, it's like, yes, there will be racist themes in the game, as in, like, it's like, racism against elves or orcs, etc. It's like, it is meant to be a proponent in it. So, like, if the DM wants it that way, then there you go. They have that. Or there will be themes of enslavement of other races. Like, that is another thing. So those are key aspects here. For like, telling people beforehand. Now, what if somebody's not fine with that? Well, then you've already put that up that it's going to be in the game. So if they're not fine with it, don't join it. But let's say that they join into the game, you put some things as maybes. It's like, okay, cool. They were fine with certain things in the game, but they put some things as like, hey, by the way, I'm not okay with this. I'm okay with this. Like with the mutilation part, with like the bodily mutilation, so dismemberment. So they're not okay with dismemberment. Okay. If they're not okay with dismemberment, talk to the player. Figure out like, okay, are you not okay with your character being dismembered, or are you fine with other things being dismembered? Right. It's like, I'm not fine with my character being dismembered. It's like, okay. So now for that player, just have it to where whenever you deal like any of that damage to those limbs, they don't get dismembered, they get broken. Like you can cripple the limb, don't cut it off. That's it. Like just that's why we have the safety sheets. The safety sheets are essentially like a guideline for how you have to interact with your players. Now, what if it's an overarching theme? Like, oh, sorry about that. Thank you. An overarching thing. So like, romance. Some people like in the game may be fine with being able to romance NPCs, but there's one person in the game who's against it. It's like, okay, do not romance that character. Do not romance that character at all. Well, what if they're not okay with like romance in general in games? Maybe they think that it bogs it down. Talk to the player. That's it. Just talk to the player. That's all you have to do. Just talk to them. It's like, are you okay with other people pursuing this in game? Yes or no? It's like, I'm not okay with it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna talk to the rest of the players then. Talk to the rest of the players. Bring up like, hey, by the way, just so you know, we're not gonna be having romance in this game. Is this a problem for anybody? If so, maybe we can go and discuss it as a group. And now you get into a proper discussion with your party because the sheets themselves lead up to that session 0. Where now you get everybody on board with what consent is where. And this is also, oh, thank you for that. Don't really have any work to save. But with that in mind, like, you have to go out of your way to find consent with your players, find a consensus with your players, but all of the safety sheets themselves are meant to be preliminary to the session 0, and the player safety sheets are meant to be shared privately with the DM. The other player shouldn't see it.
Yeah.
The other player should not see that. The reason why is because the DM is meant to go and like show that level of restraint and consent, and meant to show, like, you know, how to accommodate that player and the things that trigger them, the things that interest them. If another player gets it, if another player gets that sheet, we don't know if they're going to be vindictive. They're not held to the same standard as the DM. So that player might do something wrong. They might see that you're afraid of spiders, and they're going to be like, I'm going to cast this spell that summons a bunch of spiders, or my Eldritch Blast is flavored to look like massive spiders. Like, they're doing it to intentionally trigger the person.
Right.
The DM has to be held to a better standard. So that's why the DM is the one that gets the sheets, and that's why they post the GM sheet. So then everybody knows what content's going to be in the game. So messing with the characters, playing, like, you know, touching the characters and stuff, I feel like all of that is fine. All of that is fine. So
Okay.
that's, like, I think you should be allowed to, the character is in your setting, and if it fits the narrative and the player consents, then it's okay.
Yeah, I think the really big thing is making sure that the players understand that that's a possibility and they do consent to it, because I will be open about this. When I also first started, I didn't know how to talk to my players about these things or how to approach it, and like, we had a player die, and I actually used example on purpose because it happened. The only spell they had access to was a scroll of reincarnate that I gave to them, and they almost didn't do it because they were like, well, I don't really want to come back as like something else that's out of my control. So granted, we ended up giving that player some control so that they could still feel like comfortable playing that character, of being like, okay, we'll pick some of the races that you do want to play and then like roll a dice based off of that, so that way it's still random.
That's really good.
Yeah, so like, it's kind of about when those things do come up too, don't be afraid to actually work with your players, especially if you didn't know to talk to them about that kind of stuff. I kind of learned my lesson in that I don't touch my players' characters too much anymore, unless it's usually like I'll give them a boon. But a lot of the time when something, if it will happen, I'll ask the player to describe it for me. So say if a player loses a limb, I'm not going to say like how much they lost or whatever. Just like describe it for me. Like, what happened? Like, is it, you know, like, where are you losing it? Like, how much? That kind of thing. So that way it still feels like it's also in their control, because as the DM, you do have so much control over the entirety of the world. And like, the only thing that they have are their characters. So like, you also don't, because my fear as well is that sometimes it can be, and it can feel a little overbearing, especially if you're constantly being like, well, this happens and this happens and like this happens all to your character, and like, now, like, say you really wanted to play like an elegant, like, beautiful bard or whatever, and their face and their appearance is very important to them, but now your character is covered in scars that you didn't decide where they were, how they looked, or anything. Like, at the end of the day, sure that's realistic, but also it's a fucking fantasy game, and we're all playing fantasy and make believe. So like, let your players like choose that kind of stuff. You know, let them choose how the scar looks and where it is. Like maybe so that way they can still feel happy and comfortable playing their character, even while bad things and realistic things like are happening. They don't all have to be perfect and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say. Just so I agree, just talk to them about it and don't be afraid to work with them. And if it is something that's going to be in your game where your players are going to lose potentially control of their characters in some way, shape, or form, especially, another example, sorry, I really want to talk about, is possession. Things like possession or taking control of the player's character. Like, just, you know, definitely talk to them if that's going to happen, if it's going to happen frequently, or like how it's going to happen, because it's a lot different if you're like, okay, you're evil now, you have to fight the party, versus like, that character's mine, I'm controlling it, you have to sit there and watch while I fight the party with your character. Like, that sucks. Like, if that's going to happen, talk to them about it, especially with that kind of stuff, especially if you're taking control, taking away any of it. Just talk to them and then work with them if you forget, because sometimes session 0 isn't enough, because the game evolves, and especially as it continues on, and things can happen that you didn't initially expect to happen. So don't be afraid to work with them, you know, as well, and be like, let's talk about it, and don't just be like, it happens, suck it up, buttercup. Anyway, sorry, that's it, I'm done with my rant. I feel like I ranted too long.
Oh, it's all right.
Okay.
It's perfectly all right.
What is happening about a bench?
Oh, the beach.
Oh, is it a
Yeah,
beach?
Leader Skeleton is trying to like bribe me into like working for them, and it's like, I'm not. Like, for like a multitude of reasons. What, like, primary one being Gallo retired because he wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
So he can't work for anyone anyway. He has no use for money. He has no use for possessions. He just wants to be left alone on his beach. That's it. That's all. He hasn't traveled to the underworld. He was never a person in the first place. He's made of like the bones of adventurers and villains. Like, just outright. He has no use or want for anything besides just solitude and enjoying like the sunrise and sunset. Like, he loves the beach. That's his whole thing. That's his new love. That's his new life. So
I have a
it's like
question.
he can't be offered anything.
You get sand in between your bones, like in the bone marrow.
In the metatarsals, yeah.
How does that feel? I'm sure it's not great.
I don't.
Okay. Okay.
I have no nerve endings.
Oh yeah, I guess that would get rid of that. Well, I didn't know if you had like magic nerves inside the bones.
Like, he can't feel anything. I know that like the one thing I love bringing up is when people fight Gallo, they feel no pain and they feel tired. Those are like some of the things that activate on him. Like, he has a natural aura of this. People feel tired around him. People, like, because he has an exhaustion aura. He has an aura that removes pain. He has an aura that messes with your perception of time. And finally, he has the one thing that he uses for himself and on others, which is physical reinforcement. So he can reinforce his bones to withstand blows, and he can weaken objects that he touches. So as you're fighting him, you're missing all of your swings because
Wait.
your perception of time is shot. You're overextending because the lactic acid in your muscles aren't telling you that you're putting too much force in the swings. You're going to throw out your shoulder. You're going to tear your muscles. You would be in excruciating pain. But in actuality, you're just damaging yourself. And finally, the fact that you're getting tired. He just wears you down in the fight. You're getting more and more exhausted as you fight. Until eventually you stop fighting, and then he gives you the option of surrender or he kills you.
Well, wouldn't you be able? Wouldn't you have to feel your bones to be able to know to reinforce them?
Oh, he just reinforces it outright. He
Oh,
does.
okay.
He
Okay.
he's had the gauge off of how many times he's been hit before.
Makes sense.
He's been around for quite a few decades and has taken many blows from heroes and villains.
That makes sense. Oh, thank you for the introduction, leader of the skeleton crew. Oh, sorry, I did not mean to yawn. My apologies. Ugh, I got the yawn bug. You ever get the yawn bug like late afternoon?
I have been getting that. It sucks so damn bad.
Yep. That's when it's always like around the same time of day when it hits me too, and I'm like, fuck. Okay.
God, I love. It's like, what if I take the opposite of painkillers? It's like, you mean heroin? You.
Let's not, guys. Let's not do any druggly wugglies here. All right.
Yeah, please don't do drugs. But that is the opposite of painkillers.
Oh,
we're on the last question.
we
Look
are
at
on
that.
the last question. I know. Are you ready?
I think I am.
Okay.
It's like my 4
Also-
sentences.
So, alignment. Worth it or nix it? Also, guys, I'm gonna show myself again. I got a YouTube video on alignment in D&D. It's my most popular video. You should go watch that on YouTube after we finish this stream. Anyway, what do you think? Worth it or nix it?
Oh, I think it's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. People treat it like a hard line and a core personality trait / excuse. Like, players can't be trusted with alignment because I feel like, honestly, it's not needed in the slightest for players. Especially since it's become increasingly niche over time. I rarely see players actually use alignment in a mechanical sense. They use it as an excuse for actions. So just remove it. That's it. Just remove it. And it's like the game itself usually punishes people for not obeying it as if it's this hard box you have to stay in. It's like, especially for paladins. You can have tenets and a code of conduct. That's fine. But disobeying those, that should be what breaks your oath. Why is it that your alignment also does it? Your alignment shouldn't be doing that if you're obeying your core tenets. That's an issue that I've had, is it's like you can obey your core tenets and not match the alignment of other people of your faith. Like, that is an issue. So I don't use alignment at all. I change up a lot of stuff in my setting to work with not alignment, but with the flavor and theming of the game. If you're a paladin of a, let's say, of a nature god. Okay, you're a paladin of a nature god. And what would your detect evil be? Well, let's say the nature god is about nature reclaiming civilization. Like, reclaiming the world. Cool. Your detect evil is detect constructs. That's what I change it to. Because constructs are the antithesis of nature. Technically. I mean, you can have nature-based constructs, but, like, just in general, it's a detect constructs. I change it. Like, I change everything to work with that. If you're somebody that hunts demons, your detect evil is detect demons. Like, oh, you hunt lycanthropes? Fine. Shape changers. Done. Like, it works. Like, it's so much better. It makes it to where the character's more flavored. And yes, it makes it to where there's, like, those niches that are hit. But, like, it's like, oh, well, you're not always going to get that. That's fine. That's fine. It's like, it's weird that there's, like, a blanket detect evil just because, like, somebody is just a bit more selfish than others. It's like, oh, well, they're evil. It's like, well, you only detect that they're evil. You're not detecting that they're neutral evil. You just detect that they're evil. Hell, like, there's people that, like, they have, like, as an example, I could play a lawful evil paladin Okay. I could play a lawful evil paladin, so like an anti-paladin. I could play one of those, or like a blackguard. I'm playing like a lawful evil paladin.
Mm-hmm.
I could be the nicest person in the world. I could take care of people. I could take care of everybody around me. I could go above and beyond for society. But I'm doing it for selfish reasons. I'm doing it because I have an agenda. I'm still evil. I'm still evil. I'm still doing my own thing. Meanwhile, we have like the lawful good paladin, whom of which has a skewed mindset on their oath, and they're doing things that would be considered evil in some regards, or at least cruel. But there are people that have good intentions that do cruel things all the time. Maybe they see it as like, okay, they have healing magic, but they know that they can't like properly fix certain wounds in general. Or like an example would be like there's a wounded animal. They can heal it, but they know that like if they heal it, the wound's not going to heal properly. Or worse yet, they're like, well, mercy killing it. It's like, okay, they're going to give it mercy, but they don't have anything to make that mercy painless. So it's like, where's the line? And alignment breeds discussion of where's the line, should the alignment change, what's the punishment for the person disobeying the alignment. To avoid discussion altogether, I just remove alignment. I've had no issues in my games for like the past like 2 years online, round about 2 years online, and like the 16 years in general that I've been running of never using alignment. I don't use alignment and nobody's had a problem with it, and we've found ways to make it to where not only does it work really well, but the flavor makes it to where that character has moments of shining.
Okay.
So it's like, I don't see the purpose of alignment. I understand why it was there. I understand that like it helps as a guideline for new players. If you're a veteran player, you don't need it anymore. A lot of the time it just turns into an excuse. Like, I'm chaotic evil, this is what I would do. Like that is an excuse I hate hearing. Or I'm chaotic neutral, this is what I will do.
Okay. So, I actually like alignment. I think I agree that I think a lot of people abuse it, and they use it as an excuse, and I think that's where a lot of issues come in. And I think it is really I think it's a beneficial tool for new players for sure, but I actually like it as a I like it as a guide system that is very loose and flexible, and hopefully try not to force anyone in a box while like still keeping it extremely simple. Because I think alignment, especially the quote unquote, evil, is flexible, and those alignments can change depending on the perspective of where the party is and what the setting is and what's happening in the world. But I think using the alignment vocabulary can make it easier for people or players to understand what's actually going on sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So as a veteran player, I also like it because I tend to play not the best characters morality wise. I usually play like real pieces of shit. And I think that going to a DM sometimes and being like, hey, I want to play this character that would traditionally, especially if they're a newer DM, be classified as like this alignment. Is that something like you're okay with at your table? If not, I absolutely won't do it. Because I think it's a great tool for descriptions sometimes. But I think you can also bend it so it's very customizable, because those terms of like good and neutral and evil are all based on like perspective and where you actually are in the morality of like the people around you. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
I mean, honestly, it's like because I see both sides of the argument. I
Mm-hmm.
understand both sides of the argument, and
No, me
I'm
too.
fine. Like, I'm fine with how people do things at their table because that's the thing. It's like it's their table. I'll
Mm-mm.
roll with alignment if it's part of the group, but for me, I will never run it. I don't like alignment, and it's just people like to shoehorn. People like to really put themselves in a box,
Mm.
or other people want those people to be put into a box, and it's upsetting. Like, just in general how it goes because oh well uh you're lawful neutral so what you're not allowed to do chaotic actions like that like why would you do that you're not allowed and it's like don't police my character don't police these characters do not like and that's where like a lot of it is and I do have to admit that I removed alignment partly because I was sick of players policing other players on alignment.
Yeah, that.
I was sick of like all of the honestly needless discussion that happened around it.
Mm-mm. I think when you get into a place where other characters are policing other characters about alignment, then I would agree. That's like
Yeah.
totally not cool or okay at all because that's
No, because like they don't get to adjudicate the rules. They're a player. They're allowed to ask
mm-hmm.
about the rules. They're allowed to ask for clarification, but they're not the arbiter of it. The person behind the DM screen is.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Egg. Also, hi, Amarath.
Mhm. No, that I totally agree with. But I think if you're in a game where alignment is like barely noticeable and it's not you're not policing anyone on their actions or their choices, then most of the time, I think it's fine and it's not going to cause problems, but if it's ever causing like a problem or like issues at your table,
Yeah.
that's don't use it. That's crazy. Like you should use tools that are beneficial to you and your table. But if they're being poopy, then that's poopy and say no to the poop.
If they're being poopy, then they're poopy.
Exactly.
Say no to the poop.
Um, cause like at least, hmm, I I think for me too, at least in my games, I want to know your opinion. Like, would you say that? Because I know there are some players that definitely know they have an alignment and do kind of tend to stick with it. But like, do you feel like you're ever like locked in, or like other players are like shoehorned or locked in any case?
Repeat that real quick because I want to make sure I grasp it.
Okay. So there are definitely some players in my game, right, that have that know they have an alignment and like that's their alignment. But do you feel
Mhm.
like they ever shoehorn themselves, or do you feel shoehorned by like alignment in any way?
I feel like they shoehorn themselves. Um, a lot of it, in my opinion, is when a player is presented with alignment, they will they will oftentimes use that as a core personality trait of their character. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if they do that consistently across the board, then they're not going to want to stray from it. Some people actually will only play like with that alignment as a sense of like, oh well I'll use lawful evil again. I'll use lawful evil again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm lawful evil. It's like, okay, you're lawful evil. So you have an agenda, you have things that are for your own motives. Um Most people will be like, oh, you're lawful evil. So you're going to be lying, you're going to be stealing, you're going to be manipulating the party. It's like, yeah, but I'm also going to be investing in the party. I'm going to be giving them money. I'm going to be giving them magic items. I'm going to be defending them when I can. I'm going to be healing them when I can. And it's like, well, do you view them as pawns? It's like, no, I view them as my friends. Well, evil people don't have friends, do they? It's like, well, no, I can. I have friends. And it's like, okay, well, what happens when your plans come to fruition, huh? What happens when you take over the world? Like, doing the evil mastermind thing. It's like, you guys will be beside me. Because you're my friends. And I will take over the world to make my friends have a happier place to live. Because you can do that. But there are other people that think that if you're lawful evil, you're an evil mastermind. You're manipulating the party. You're going to betray everybody. So you'll see like DMs ban evil alignment. And a lot of it's precautionary. Where it's like, oh, I can't trust my players to play evil. Because what if you get that guy? Where they take it too far. And that's fair. That is. And that's their table. They can do that. I welcome evil alignment. I welcome all alignment. But the moment that like some people are told, oh, you're able to play evil, they take it cartoonishly too far. There are people that take good too far, where they police the party by doing that. They become like the party mom or dad. They become the babysitter. And they will outright dictate what everybody does on the field trip because they're a chaperone now. They don't want other people to do things that are quote unquote out of character in their mind. And then of course there's the neutral players, which all of them are, as Kobold Vori said earlier, lol random. Especially chaotic neutral. Chaotic neutral is essentially the lol random, I can do things without consequences character. And and the stereotypes themselves are there because those are the things that people lean into. So that's why I go away from alignment and I just let people dictate things as what would your character do? Not because of alignment, but because of who your character is. It's like, oh, well, you're like Ulysses is a good example of that. I don't pay any attention to his alignment at all. I actually don't do anything with his alignment at all. Yeah. I just pay attention to the fact that he is someone that will obey the law, but he will also find ways around the law. He will exploit the law so then he can get away with things. He works for essentially a nebulous evil entity. Well, entities. He does that. He does that for good reason, because they brought him back. Against his will, but they brought him back. So he works for them because he feels like he owes them, because he has a sense of honor about him. Where it's like, if somebody does something for you, you owe them a debt. You pay back that debt however you can. Him serving the board is how he pays back his debt. So that's where, Ulysses stands. He will con the party. He likes the party. He views them as, out of his whole entire time being around, they're the closest thing he has to friends. But he doesn't trust them all the way. He trusts them enough. He especially trusts Dio's character.
Alaric.
But, he doesn't really trust anybody else. He doesn't trust Manella because Manella can do anything because of the sword. He doesn't trust Avril because Avril's new. And Avril has been hiding information just like him. And he wouldn't trust himself. So that's why, he doesn't trust Avril. Avril's doing the exact same stuff that he's doing. So, that's where a lot of this kind of comes into play. I don't pay attention to my alignment, I pay attention to character. And I feel as if character is more defining than alignment will ever be. But alignment's an accessory. Alignment is indeed an accessory, and it's an accessory that can work with or against a character, depending on who is piloting that character.
Oh, I agree. I think that's a great way to put it. I do. I think it's an accessory, and I don't think you need it. I think sometimes it can definitely help. Because the way I this is how I like to use it when I'm making a character. I kind of look at it as morality spectrum, because one of my favorite characters that I played, she was a cannibal, and she focused she ate people, right? And most people thought that was super evil, but to her, that was super normal. So, like, regardless of what she thought she was, she would probably be considered evil because of those actions, regardless of, like, her own moral spectrum. But it's, like, the morality of those around her. So that's kind of, like, how I like to view it. It's, like, how would you describe the character's actions and viewpoints compared to the society like that they're in? You know, I do. I think someone said they look at it retroactively, and I think that's also a good way to look at it is after the fact, like, oh, well, like, does that make sense? Don't base your decisions off of it, you know?
Wait, I completely get that.
Yeah.
Also, I love how like both like Dukes and Dio are here.
I know. We weren't talking about you guys. We would never. What?
Don't worry, Dio. I trust Alaric more than Avril. I love how like his bongo cat has like the little blind man glasses too. That's even funnier.
Those are cute. I like those. I like the glasses.
Hey, Dukes. Listen, okay? Yes, it's fair, but if it's any consolation, like earlier I did talk about how you guys essentially made me the de facto leader. Like I was voluntold, and I used as much of that sway as I could to get it to where you would not be as harassed. Well, hazed. So every bit that you get hazed now, that's on you, man. That's
Oh, my webcam! Oh gosh. I
You're
died.
right.
Yeah, I died. Sorry.
Oh damn, you died.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wait, hold on. I'll be revived. Revived
I
in
can't-
a second.
I can't believe she died on stream like that.
Okay, we're revived now. Revived. Oopsies. Yeah. I think that was a great conversation. That was all the questions I had. I don't know if you had any other stuff you wanted to talk about, but that's what I got.
No, I don't really have any. To be fair, mainly because well, I did steal your lunch money. I did. The reason why I don't really have that many questions is we've answered a lot of them. Also because the ad break just started.
Oh no!
Yeah, Dio was the one that stole the lunch money. That was Dio. Alaric stole it. Avril's not allowed to have food.
Y'all are just gonna starve your party member?
Yeah.
Damn. All right. I noticed.
Damn.
Damn. If you guys want to, like, I don't know, see us actually play this campaign that we keep fucking talking about, you can catch it this Friday around 8 to 8:30 p.m. EST, my channel. It'll be pretty pug. You should come. Was that a good show? I think that was a pretty good show.
I think it's an okay show. It's a good show.
It was okay? Okay. How should how should I improve the show?
Hold on. Let me configure this for you.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You need to fund his bad decisions. Okay. Yes, you do. All right. So here's how this works.
Okay.
This is how you show it. Damn! Imagine that shout out. What?
Wait, what?
Hold on.
Did you just get mod botted in your own chat?
No, that was you that got mod botted.
Oh. Huh. Whack.
Yeah, because like Saiyan tried to do it.
Oh.
There we go. Alright, if you want to go and catch Ash and myself, as well as a few others, playing some D&D and getting up to some hijinks, you'll be able to go and catch us every other Friday at around 8 p.m. EST, where we usually 8:30, where currently we're in the process of uncovering some very nefarious schemes, not only from the players but also from the environment. We have demons, we have dastardly villains, and of course we have mystery on our hands. So please stay tuned for all of that. Every other Friday, this Friday is going to be us coming on back. So please do us a favor, subscribe to Ashling, follow, do whatever you need to. She's been posting the VODs. She's been doing fantastic at this. She's our wonderful DM. And I myself, I am the illustrious Ulysses Brand. Hey!
What the fuck? That
There
was
you go,
so
Zach.
good. Why? Why was that
was
so
good.
good? That was amazing.
I kind of...
I'm invested.
You're invested. There we
Yeah.
go. That's what's up. I'm pretty good at this.
Damn. All right.
It's what I do. I like doing elevator pitches. I like doing advertisement. Like, it's my thing.
Oh yeah, that was dope as hell. That was great. That was amazing.
But yeah, like, please go and catch us every other Friday. This Friday it's going to be 8 or 8:30, really just depending, because sometimes we do have some technical issues. But you know, it's not VTubing if it's not scuff. But listen, Ashling runs a wonderful world, wonderful game, and make sure that all of us are accommodated and taken care of. So if you want to go and catch it, it's every other Friday, 8 p.m. EST on her channel. So feel free to go and drop a follow, drop a subscribe. If you go and hop onto her YouTube channel where she posts them, feel free to go and just drop a like, drop a subscribe down there as well. Maybe even drop a comment. Tell us your favorite moments. That's what we want to hear.
Stop, you're so good at this, but also thank you so much. But also the game would not be the same without my wonderful, amazing players, and I'm just very glad that they have fun and they're all wonderful. And yeah, please also go check out all of Undead's awesome stuff, especially that phenomenal book. I would shout out Dio, but Dio don't do much content anymore. But go check out Dux. Dux also streams sometimes and does some fun stuff.
He's rated me a few times.
Yeah, and Danish really doesn't do content, but still pretty cool.
Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Bye.